Today we're going to dive into one of the most powerful, misunderstood, and controversial tools in corporate finance, the special purpose vehicle. By the end of this session, you'll understand why every major company uses them, how they help bring down a giant like Enron, and why they are essential for everything from building bridges to funding startups. So, what exactly is it? In simple terms, an SPV is a separate company, created by a parent company, with one main job: to act as a protective shield. Think of it as a sealed container. If you have something risky, like a volatile chemical, you put it in the container so if it explodes, the main lab is safe. That's what an SPV does with financial risk. It's legally distinct from its parent, which is a crucial concept called being bankruptcy remote. This means if the SPV fails, its creditors can't come after the parent company's assets, and if the parent fails, the SPV's assets are typically protected. Its purpose is always specific and limited, maybe to manage one large project or a pool of assets, and it often acts as a pass-through for funding and profits. Now, why would a company go through the trouble of creating this separate entity? Let's look at the four most common uses. First, and most importantly, is risk isolation for big projects. Imagine a company wants to build a massive new factory. Instead of risking the entire company if the project goes over budget or fails, they house the project in an SPV. If the factory fails, the lenders can only claim the factory itself, not the parent company's other successful businesses. The second, and hugely significant use, is asset securitization. This is how things like mortgage-backed securities are created. A bank has thousands of mortgages, illiquid assets sitting on its books. It sells them to an SPV. The SPV then bundles them and issues bonds to investors. The monthly mortgage payments from homeowners are used to pay the investors. The SPV turns illiquid loans into cash. Thirdly, SPVs are great for joint ventures. If two companies want to collaborate, they can do it within a neutral SPV. This makes ownership, profit sharing, and liability crystal clear for everyone involved. Lastly, it helps with assets transfer. Directly transferring certain assets, like intellectual property, complex contracts, or entire business units, can be legally difficult and time-consuming. What the company can do is to put these hard-to-transfer assets into a separate SPV. Instead of selling the assets individually, the company sells the entire SPV. This turns a complex asset sale into a simple corporate merger or acquisition, streamlining the process significantly. So, what are the powerful advantages that make SPVs so popular? The number one benefit is risk management. It's that firewall we talked about. This isolation is the foundation for everything else. They are great for attracting specific investors. An investor might not want to bet on the entire parent company, but they might love the specific project or asset pool inside the SPV. This allows for targeted investment. This leads directly to the second benefit: better, cheaper financing. Because an SPV holds only specific, high-quality assets and is protected from the parent's risks, it can often get a better credit rating. A better rating means it can borrow money at a lower interest rate, saving the parent company a lot of money. SPVs also offer confidentiality and flexibility. Their finances don't always have to be merged with the parent company's public reports, allowing for some privacy in complex deals. Now, we have to talk about the dark side. Like any powerful tool, SPVs can be dangerously misused. The biggest risk is over-leverage and systemic risk. Companies can create a web of SPVs to hide how much debt they truly have. This off-balance sheet debt makes the company look much healthier than it is. When this is done on a massive scale, it can threaten the entire financial system. This was a central cause of the 2008 global financial crisis. This practice creates a major lack of transparency. The complex structure can be deliberately used to obscure the truth from investors and regulators. Now, let's see them in action. We'll look at 3 real-world cases where SPVs played a starring role: one in epic engineering, one in global finance, and one in catastrophic fraud. 1. The Channel Tunnel was a monumental bet. The risk was far too great for the British or French governments to take on directly. So, how was it funded? Through an SPV named Eurotunnel. This entity was created solely to build and operate the tunnel. It raised billions from private investors and over 200 banks. This structure was a masterpiece of risk isolation. If the project failed, which it nearly did due to huge cost overruns, the lenders could only claim the assets of the SPV, the tunnel itself. The governments and taxpayers were shielded. The SPV acted as a vital firewall, enabling a project that otherwise might never have been built. 2. Enron didn't use SPVs for risk isolation, it used them for deception. It created hundreds of SPVs. Here's the trick. Enron sold its loss-making assets and massive debt to these SPVs. But the SPVs weren't independent. Enron executives controlled them and promised to cover losses with company stock. This violated the core bankruptcy remote principle. Through this shell game, Enron hid billions in debt and booked fake profits, inflating its stock price. The SPV, designed as a firewall, was used to build a fortress of fraud. 3. Now, let's look at securitization, the process of turning loans into tradable bonds. This is where SPVs became a global risk. Banks created SPVs with cryptic names like Mortgage Loan Trust 2007-1. They sold thousands of mortgages to these SPVs, which then issued bonds to investors. Homeowners' payments were used to pay those investors. This was a legitimate use of SPVs to create liquidity. But the system broke when the assets inside the SPVs became toxic. Subprime mortgages given to people who couldn't afford them. The SPV structure itself wasn't the problem was the garbage assets put inside it. When homeowners started defaulting, the entire house of cards collapsed. The SPVs failed, and because these risks were spread globally, it triggered a financial meltdown.